Minister for Social and Family Development, and Second Minister for Defence, Mr. Chan Chun Sing, Mr. Eddie Teo, Chairman of the RSIS Board of Governors, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of RSIS, I'd like to welcome all of you to the 16th Asia Pacific Program for Senior Military Officers, or APPSMO as we know it. APPSMO is now in its 16th year, and it's growing in terms of participation as well as outreach. From a very modest start in 1999, APPSMO has now grown into a global program involving military and civilian participants from more than 20 countries. In an effort to nurture this network of current and future defense thinkers and planners, RSIS has been working on initiatives to reach out to our APPSMO alumni. I am pleased to announce that this year, APPSMO alumni will be invited to participate in our distinguished dinner talk in the course of the program. This is one of the highlights of the APPSMO program. This year, we also have two APPSMO alumni, Major General Chu Cheng-hu and Rear Admiral Gyam Hock Kun, who are returning to join us as panel speakers. We hope that as APPSMO participants and future alumni, you will be generous in both your constructive feedback as well as your active participation over the week, so that we can build a network which all of you as participants can call your own. Over the years at APPSMO, we have addressed a range of security-related topics spanning from globalization to the emergence of non-security threats. However, the focus of APPSMO this year is firmly on an issue that affects military professionals of all ranks and vocations: change. How does the military institution deal with change in the security environment, but also the changing demographics of local and global societies that could affect the way that the military operates? This year's theme is therefore the changing role of the military. We have assembled prominent policymakers, practitioners, and scholars to address the topics of the changing dimensions of strategy, the geopolitics of the Asia Pacific, the challenges of irregular warfare, civil-military cooperation in a coalition environment, perceptions of the military profession, and cross-domain interoperability as well as integration. We will have many challenges and opportunities for you to share your opinions, debate ideas, and also to question assumptions, because we will be having syndicates as well as plenary sessions. I would take this opportunity to thank our sponsors, the Singapore Totalizator Board and the Ministry of Defence, for their support. It now leaves me to call upon the Minister for Social and Family Development and the Second Minister for Defence, Mr. Chan Chun Sing, to deliver the opening address for the 16th Asia Pacific Program for Senior Military Officers. Minister, please.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, and my good friend General Rees, who have kindly joined us this morning. It's always a pleasure to come back to APPSMO to speak to you and to share with you some of the insights that we have today. First, let me thank Ambassador Barry Desker for inviting me back here, and a warm welcome to our foreign guests from all over the region and different parts of the world. Thank you for joining us, and also you have the opportunity to join us on the celebration of our 49th birthday for Singapore. APPSMO was started some 16 years back with a very simple set of aims. First and foremost, it was a chance for upcoming military leaders to take a break from your work, to reflect on your profession. Second, it was done to allow you to have an opportunity to acquire new perspective by meeting people from other countries in an informal environment so that you can frankly explore the challenges of the profession and also to discuss some of the geostrategic issues that are of concern to all of us. Last but not least, APPSMO was conceived to allow a new generation of military leaders to build ties amongst themselves. And one can never underestimate how important this is going forward. So for many generations of participants who have come and joined APPSMO, I think the most valuable thing they took away was not just the chance to relax, not the new perspective that they have acquired, but most importantly, the friendship that they have built. And on many occasions, we have seen how such friendship have translated into tangible results in the operational realm to allow people to work together in a crisis situation. So I hope this year's APPSMO will similarly provide opportunities for all participants to achieve the same three goals. To have a time for you to relax your mind and reflect, to acquire new perspective, and most importantly, to build ties. Now today we live in a very interesting environment, if not challenging environment. Globalization and rapid economic development, particularly in Asia, has led to an increasing mix of people across borders, bringing people together and yet causing new challenges along the way. There is intense economic competition. For many countries, even domestically, they face a lot of challenges managing the tensions within the country. It has to do with jobs, income inequalities, providing fertile ground for security issues to emerge. On the international front, the competition for resources to sustain economic development continues. In this era of rapid development, within a society, often you see a restructuring of the existing societal links and societal models. Yet at another level, you can see a restructuring of the established regional and global order. All this presents new challenges for the military profession. Let me recap last year's conversation that I had with the last year's participants. We talked about the 4 R's being issues of concern: race, religion, resources, and rights. These 4 sets of issues remain as relevant today. Let me elaborate how they will continue to present challenges to our region in a time of rapid economic development. Regardless of whether you are doing well or not doing well, these 4 sets of forces remains. For those countries who are not doing well, the first thing they realize is that they face increasing domestic political pressure to protect their markets. And when income inequality widens within a society, there will always be racial and perhaps even religious undertones. For many countries, the goal has always been not to overlay race and religious fault lines over socio-economic fault lines. But unfortunately, for many countries in the region, the socio-economic fault lines are overlaid with race and religious fault lines. This is a dangerous combination. For those who are not doing well, there will always be the concern of falling behind, and there will be cause to do something more for them. It is not easy to resist the political pressure, nor the political temptation. For those who are not doing well, it will also constrain their leaders' ability to deal with the external issues confidently. Often, when a country is not doing well, it exacerbates the pressure for leaders to be tempted to divert their attention elsewhere, externally. This is a dangerous combination. On the other hand, in today's interconnected world, we also see the import of external influences into the domestic politics of a country. If we just look at these recent weeks, the issues happening in Gaza, the conflict between the Palestinians and the Israelis, the issues happening in Syria, the issues with the ISIS, which are, by any normal definition, far away from our shores. But yet, at the same time, we see the emergence of such forces playing in the domestic situation. Some countries have seen their own people joining the fight in Syria. Other countries have seen their own domestic population all riled up by the situation in Gaza. And people take sides. This presents added challenges to the domestic security situation. But none of us can be insulated from such forces in an interconnected world. The cause may not be directly relevant to a country, but it will directly and indirectly impact the course and future of a country. So these are some of the challenges for those who are doing not so well, perhaps absolutely or relatively. But even for those countries who are doing well, there are challenges. For rapidly developing economies, the first concern is always the issue of resources. How do I continue to secure resources to sustain the growth momentum? How do I secure the lifelines for my own domestic growth? When it comes to such issues, it cannot be handled by individual countries alone. The lifelines of most of the countries, if not all the countries in Southeast Asia, transcends the oceans and the airways of the entire world. We are all interconnected in some ways. This is an opportunity for cooperation, but yet at the same time, this presents challenges when people compete for resources or supposedly unclaimed resources in the region or beyond. Yet there is another set of dangers for those who are doing extremely well. For those countries who are doing extremely well, there is always a temptation to right the perceived wrongs of history. Perhaps the moral of the story is that regardless of whether you are doing well or not doing well, there seems to present evergreen challenges to the security along the lines of race, religion, the fight for resources, and the fight to assert one's rights, historically or otherwise. These are the challenges facing our geopolitical situation at this point in time. Then the question is, what can the militaries do? What can you all, as military professions, contribute positively, constructively to this conversation? Many years ago, I was educated in Fort Leavenworth, the US. One of the first message drummed into all of us as young officers then was that the military is but one of the 4 instruments of power. They have a catchy acronym called DIME, D-I-M-E, to make sure that we all remember the 4 dimensions of national power. They call it the diplomatic, informational, military, and economic. Today, I will attempt to be a good student of Fort Leavenworth and use the DIME framework to share what the military can do in the current environment. But the most important lesson that Fort Leavenworth taught us was that the military is but one of the instruments of power, and the application of military force should be the last resort and not for all recourse. The application of military force should be a last resort and not for all recourse. Let me start with the diplomatic view. The military community has a unique and distinct advantage over the political leadership. The military community has this unique advantage to grow up together, to know each other for many years, often more than the number of years that the political leaders will get to know each other. The military should take advantage of these long established links to provide added channels of communications for the political masters. Because you understand each other and you have the opportunity to understand each other from young, you can help to reduce misunderstanding, you can help to interpret correctly the intention of the other parties without second guessing. This is very important. Often, diplomatics may not get it absolutely right because they do not have the depth of relationship between counterparts. But what we hope through such forums and dialogue is that military leaders can grow up together, forge those bonds, help to reduce misunderstanding, and help to reduce the uncertainties faced in the diplomatic world. The second dimension of DIME, or I, is informational. But I'm going to tweak that a bit and change it to institutional. On the informational side, people hear what politicians say. But more importantly, people, the markets, watch what the militaries do. The militaries can provide a great sense of assurance, or the military can provide added complications to an already tense situation. It requires leadership to provide that positive momentum to help calm nerves when things are going tough. More importantly, the military can help to build those institutions to help stabilize a situation and prevent conflicts. For many countries, especially those who are mighty and strong, there will always be a temptation to use might to get its way. But we all know, collectively, it is better for us to adhere to institutional norms and international laws than to have selective use and application of international laws whenever it suits us. So the question is, will this current generation of military leaders transcend what was achieved in the past? Will right is might be the norm? Or will institutions, solid institutions, allow us to build a new future together? Building institutions is never easy. Where institutions are not mature, we should develop a web of bilateral and multilateral ties to make up for what we may lack institutionally. There are advantages of having complementary multilateral institutions to overcome bilateral inadequacies. Shangri-La Dialogue, APPSMO, and many of such forums are useful platforms for countries and officers to meet, even if their respective countries are not on the best terms. It is a neutral platform that we should leverage on to build those ties, to keep the channel of communications open so that we can build a better future together. So where possible, we should continue to strengthen the formal and informal channels of communications, maintain contacts with each other to prevent issues from the first place. Many observers always ask, why do you military guys keep meeting and keep talking when there's no problem? Actually, the trick is to keep talking, keep meeting, to make sure that there is no problem. By the time there is problem, and you start meeting and talking, you will be too late. So the job of the military is to preempt crisis and not just to manage crisis. But what about the military dimension of our national power? And this is an area where the military officers can do much. No doubt we have our differences here, now and then. But if you look, you take a step back and take a wider perspective, there are many things that we need to work together and can work together. And most importantly, we can build capacities together. For example, in the area of humanitarian assistance and disaster relief, there's much that we can do to solve and manage the common challenges. This is the reason why Singapore is committed to play our part to stand up a regional humanitarian assistance disaster relief coordination center to manage and help coordinate the frequent HADR challenges that emerge in this region. What about counter-terrorism? This is also another area that we can work together. Information sharing, and most importantly, avoiding a situation whereby the terrorists use the gaps in bilateral cooperation and exploit them for their own benefit. Terrorism is not a domestic issue. Terrorism is more often than not an international issue that requires international cooperation. Increasingly, we are also seeing challenges in the area of maritime, aviation, and land border security. Again, these are not domestic issues. These are issues which military can play an important and active part to help resolve. This is also the reason why Singapore is committed to our International Information Fusion Center in Changi. We want to provide the platform for countries to come together, to work together, to manage our common challenges. Going forward, there will be other challenges, from cybersecurity to securing our lines of communications, to the physical security of our trade routes, our lines of supplies, and so forth. If you look at the geography of Southeast Asia, there is no better place than here to start talking about regional cooperation to collectively secure our lines of communications. But in order for us to do this, then we must transcend our own narrow parochial interests and to be truly able to work as a team. Last but not least is the economic dimension. You will find it quite strange as to what has economics to do with the military. Actually, the military has a responsibility to apply the resources, the economic resources at its disposal judiciously. If the military does not apply the resources judiciously, it will impose a burden on our own respective nations. If the military does not apply the economic resources at our disposal judiciously, it will not inspire confidence in our public to support the military. Yet on the other hand, if the military mixes its interests with the economic interests, it is a recipe for trouble. The military must always remember that we are but an instrument of national power and not the other way around. When we master our resources well, harness them well, we will do justice to the faith that our own societies have placed on us respectively. So ladies and gentlemen, we live in interesting times. Rapid development have led to new challenges for all of us. Challenges that we may not be able to overcome individually, but challenges that require us to put our hearts and minds together to overcome collectively. The previous generation of military leaders have shown wisdom to eschew conflict for development to better the lives of our people. It is thus incumbent upon the new generation of leaders to rise to the new challenges with the same goal in mind, to create a conducive environment for better lives for our people. So I hope during this discussion, this series of discussion, you have the chance to explore new perspectives and forge new bonds. If I may, I will just leave you with a final concluding thought. And that is, what is our measure of success for the military? What is our measure of success for the military? For many military leaders who they jokingly say are the type A personality, fighting and winning may be a measure of success. But to draw a leaf from Sun Tzu, the true measure of success is not to fight and win, but is to win without fighting. Our measure of success and greatness is not how we subdue others, how we secure others using our might, or how we win conflicts. That is a small measure of success. Our greater measure of success is how we win over others, secure our interests without the use of might. How we eschew conflicts yet benefit all. How we use the diplomatic instrument of power to get the channels working to prevent conflict in the first place. How we build institutions that last beyond our lifetime for a more stable environment. How we identify areas of cooperation within the military realm to build ties and to generate positive capacities to manage our common challenges. And how do we master our resources so that we bear faith with the people who have so supported us. On that note, I wish you a fruitful discussion and all the very best to you for the 16th APPSMO. Thank you very much.